Well, hello everyone. This is Dr. Eileen, and this is Medicine Walk. And for those of you who are listening in on Blog Talk Radio, this is Healing House Radio. So I hope everyone had a wonderful week, and we're going to continue or kind of finish up the discussion on empathy and grief management. And once again, for those of you who have reached out to me, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you on behalf of myself and my family and Luna getting her moment of fame. So what I wanted to talk about today was, like I said, I just wanted to kind of sort of wrap up this part of the discussion because there is so much about empathy that we're going to be covering. And it originally was my intention to cover this topic a little bit later on, but the universe has ways of kind of working things out to where they happen when they happen. So again, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, if at the premiere episode, I am in the chat room. The chat room is open and I am there. So if you would like to log in and ask me any questions during the premiere of the episode, I will be there to answer them live. And for after the premiere of the episode, and for those of you who are on Blog Talk Radio, you can leave any questions or comments in the comment section, and I will respond to them in the next week's video. So, when dealing with grief, and remember last week we talked a lot about the need to separate, the need to get yourself kind of away from everyone so that you can sort of hone in on what it is that you're going through. And it's, you don't have to completely, isolate and cut yourself off. You just need breaks. You need to take little breaks in what's going on. And during this time, it is very difficult to get time to yourself. And maybe you're making arrangements, maybe you're helping with family that are visiting, and maybe you're supporting and being supported. So the idea is just to be able to take little gaps of time for yourself to figure out what this change, what this transition really means to you. Maybe there are some issues that went unresolved. And at that point, it's about figuring out how to manage that in a good way. Now, if you are really having a difficult time with it, please, please, please speak to a professional, speak to somebody, talk to someone, maybe clergy, maybe a therapist, maybe get in contact with a support group. There are some amazing support groups that are out there and available to help people be able to manage difficult times like these. So, don't feel that you have to do it alone. Yes, you need downtime, you need quiet time, and that quiet time needs to be able to be healthy for you. And if your circumstances are that it goes into a very unhealthy place and you can't get yourself out of it, please reach out. Contact somebody, get a hold of anybody and talk to them, because it's important for you to be able to be supported. And yes, as empaths, there's that part of us that always wants to be taking care of other people. And that can be a wonderful thing. Most people who are healers, most people who are teachers, most people who, are counselors, they have a fairly strong empathic ability, and it allows them to connect with people in a much better way. I utilize it on many different levels in the work that I do. So it's a really good thing to be able to do that. And when you're going through something, when you're going through a grief process, and I mean, this is the very, for my family, this is the beginning part of the grief process. And so, it's going to take time to work through that. Does that mean that you have to, completely withdraw for however long? No. As I said, it's just a matter of being able to take breaks to balance. And, and that's the key, is to find balance with, what you're giving and what you're receiving. Are you being so drained that you have nothing for yourself? And having that level of compassion and comfort and the desire to be there for someone, you need to be there for you. You need to be there for the person in the mirror. And maybe it does mean having to say no when, people want extra things from you. It's like, well, no, I need to focus on this right now. And empaths have a very hard time with that. They have a very hard time with the idea of leaving anybody hanging, because what happens is we feel their disappointment. And especially in times of grief, when what we feel takes a lot more effort and conscious will to manage. During grief processes, during very emotional times, empathy tends to run amok, because we're not in that space of being able to be analytical enough to compartmentalize it. So, if you're involved in a grief process, and as I said before, this could be anything. In my case, it is, the death of a family member. It could be anything, any significant change. Even a good change can be stressful. And there can be grief of different ways associated with it. Now, if you are in a grief process, no matter what it is, no matter how long it may last, you need to be very conscious of what it is that you are willing to commit to. And it's best to keep your commitments to a minimum while you're working through your own emotions. And like I said, it's our instinct to want to help. And especially when we're going through something, empaths, one of our best ways of dealing with things, and I use the term best as in it's a go-to. If we immerse ourselves in the feelings and emotions of other people, then that means we feel less. So it is very easy to slide into, well, I can't do anything about this, but I can bury myself in what's going on with this person, and I'll feel good and they'll feel good. And then, we can just, I don't have to feel this pain. And that's what it comes down to. We have to be willing to feel that pain. We're willing to take on the pain of others. And we can't use that as a way to hide from our own. We can't use someone else's grief as a means to avoid looking our own grief straight in the face. So when people come up and they want us to help them with things, if we're not in that good space, we need to be able to say no. We can say no very nicely, or you can refer them to somebody else. If you're a practitioner, it's okay to refer out. Say, well, I'm really not in a space where I can do that right now, and I know somebody who's fantastic who can be able to help you. So it is about managing how many energetic fields we're in at any given time. We have, let's see, this is going out on Thursday. On Friday, I'm going to be doing some work with AIDS patients, and it's a quarterly thing that I'm involved in and that I assist with. And I really had to go into myself and say, okay, Saturday is my brother's service, and that's going to be a very intense day. The day before that, how do I really feel about working with people who, it really is a wonderful thing. It's called a rejuvenation fair. And here in the Bay Area, there's organization called the Center for Living with Dying, and quarterly they hold this event for AIDS patients and for their caregivers. And I'm one of the practitioners who volunteers their time to work on people and to be there and to talk and to listen and all of that. And I've been doing it for well over a decade now. And it really is a wonderful thing to, to go and to hug and, to really reaffirm, the humanity of people who, because of the condition they carry, they're sort of dehumanized in some ways. And while it's better than it was, there's still a long way to go. And so, it is rewarding, and yet there is a very large kind of emotional piece to it. And I also do energetic work with people. So I really had to ask myself, is this something that I can do? Is this something that is not going to drain me to the point where I'm going to have a hard time dealing with what I need to deal with? And honestly, when you become a conscious empath, when you make that choice, because it is a choice, we can always just go and float through and, just kind of get blown whichever way we're going to be tossed. Or you can go, okay, do I need empathy right now? If I do, what level of empathy do I need? And how will I know when I don't need it on anymore? So it's that turning it on, turning it off thing. For this particular event, I actually don't need it on very much. And yes, I'm working with people and I'm talking to people. But the thing is, do I need to actually be empathic? I've been there for a long time, so people know me and they're very comfortable with me. I don't have to be able to establish trust. Or if I meet someone new, it's very, very low. And I bring my energy down and I go into a very gentle, very maternal, I kick in my maternal energy. And so I can be there for people, but I don't specifically need empathy. So, and empathy as in a conscious psychic phenomena, an energetic exchange where I have to match their frequency, because I really don't. I can sympathy and compassion and listening and understanding can really take care of that. So as I weighed whether or not this would be a healthy thing for me, I came to the conclusion, yes, it is, because I can be able to remain in my own energetic field while at the same time still connect. Empathy is one way to connect with people. It is not the only way. And for people who utilize empathy a lot, once you bring it to a level of conscious choice, then you realize how many other gifts you have. Your ability to perceive and connect is not just empathy. That's one of the easiest ways to go. Hello, Sam. That's one of the easiest ways to go. But it is not the only tool and the only skill you have. And you can be able to manage it in a good way. And honestly, you will. Even no matter how you feel that your empathy is not something that you can control, I promise you, you can. You can bring it into conscious thought. You just have to kind of reframe your relationship with it. Sam, oh my goodness. Okay, come on. Come up here. Come on. See, Sam, come on. There you go. There you go. It's okay. So this is Sam. This is my boy. And usually he's very content to take a nap. Oddly enough, today Luna is kind of going, yeah, whatever. I said hello. But Sam, he's kind of, that part of my my safe space. There's nothing like having a dog who can be able to, or a cat or a pet or a bird or an iguana or whatever it is, whatever you have that loving relationship with. Animals can be very, very, very helpful when they're not trying to take over the couch. so, um, so the idea is that look to what your other things are. You can dial down your empathy, and it's okay not to feel so connected. And that's also something we're going to be exploring, in more detail. It's just in dealing with grief, that's kind of one circumstance where you decide how much you need to connect on that level. If you're in a space where people are grieving, you don't need specifically to feel what they're feeling to know that they're grieving and to be able to support them. So just consider that what you do and how you choose to respond to things, make that conscious, make that choice. Because it's very easy to, it's kind of like getting sucked into an undertow. It just kind of grabs you and yanks you out. And I spent a lot of years dealing with that, and a lot of years feeling very helpless in the face of it. I am an empath. I am empathic. And there's also more to me. That's not all I am. It's not all you are. You are so much more than one ability. And yet that one ability can be an amazing way for you to connect with the world around you. So consider that that as you deal with things, and as you deal with your environment, and as you deal with the people in it, and there will be people in your life who are very accustomed to you taking everything on and helping them feel better because that is your instinct and they're drawn to you. People, it's amazing how people will be primally drawn to empaths. They want to, talk to you separately. They want to, they get into conversations where they, all of a sudden, things start coming out of them that normally they would not be sharing so quickly. And they may even say, wow, it's so easy to talk to you. You really make me feel like I'm being heard, like I'm being listened to. It can actually be very hard for empaths to go into a place of judgment because we are feeling, unless somebody is judging themselves, which sometimes happens, if someone is not judging themselves, an empath, it is very difficult for us to go into judgment with them because we're reflecting their feelings. We're reflecting their emotions. So it can be wonderful to be able to do that just like, just with a thought. And it is even more wonderful to be able to make it a choice, to be able to say, in this moment, I do not need to connect. There is no reason for me to connect. There is no purpose for me to connect. Sympathy means I feel bad for you. Empathy means I feel bad for you and I need to become involved in it. It's very liberating to be able to say, do I really need to become involved in it? I can be present for this person. I don't have to feel what they're feeling in order for me to be compassionate, in order for me to be a good listener. It does not require me to invest my energy in matching them. And that is kind of, you can decide how much energy you need to put in. When you are going through something, when you have your plate very full, when you don't have, a lot of excess energy, or maybe you're feeling exhausted. If you're empathic and you find yourself feeling exhausted a lot and really feeling like you want to draw away from people and not just, well, I'd like some downtime, but when you actually become, reclusive when you just want to be a hermit, when the idea of going out and interacting with anybody is almost painful for you, or really triggers a lot of emotion, you don't want to go outside. These are signs that you are not setting up good boundaries. These are signs that you are allowing yourself to resonate too much with those around you. So the idea of withdrawing, and for those of you who deal with people who are empathic, you can watch them. You can watch an empath and you can actually gauge how they're doing. And if you notice someone who you know to be an empath and suddenly they're withdrawing, they're not accepting invitations to go places, they're not accepting, they don't want to talk on the phone. Suddenly, all the messages are going to voicemail. They're getting very quiet. Those are usually signs that an empath is going into distress. And that means that they need to, just put on the brakes. They need to be able to get some assistance, and they need it to be okay for them to be able to disconnect and find space for themselves in a healthy way. And one of the best ways to help somebody who is empathic, it is by allowing them to make that choice. And as long as they can do it in a healthy way, then, they can, it's like, okay, well, why don't you just go and, and get some rest? And, maybe if you work with somebody who's empathic, it's like, you know what, why don't you take off early today, and, and I'll take care of the stuff at the office. Or, why, let me watch your kids. Or, why don't we take, your family out? And especially, if there's a grief process happening and there's a lot of activity, you can say, it's like, you know what, I'll take your family out to dinner, or, we'll go to a movie, or we'll do something, or I'll sit with them. And why don't you go and, get a nap? Why don't you go relax a little bit? It's amazing how just a little tiny bit of a break can be able to help somebody to kind of get out of the space that they're in, where, they can catch their breath and get their feet under them. So as you work as an empath, as you work through your grief, make sure you make time for that. You can be there and you can support others, through a service. It can be very challenging. Focus inward. If you're somebody who can utilize stones, people kind of resonate with different elements. If there's somebody who, is able to connect with stones, and stones are great because what they can do is you resonate with a stone, you put that empathic connection with a stone, you learn stillness, you learn quiet, you learn detachment, especially river stones. They are designed to just let everything slide away. Everything flows past. So even if you have one on you, you can hold on to a small one in your hand and bring your entire awareness into that stone. Make that your entire focus. And what that does is it detaches you from everything else. Now, for some people, it's water. So you can just sit and sip some water. Just sip a little bit of water and be aware of it as you swallow it. Like if it's slightly cool and you can sort of feel it going down your throat, bring your entire awareness into that. Bring it into the water. And just as you swallow, make that your focus. And then that will detach you. So there's a lot of different ways. Figure out what is the way that works for you to find stillness, to separate from what's going on around you. It doesn't mean that you're not present. It doesn't mean that you're not there for your loved ones. And sometimes you can be there for your loved ones in a much better way when the empathy is off, when you are simply there. You're not feeling everything. Because when you're not feeling everything, you can go in and deal with your own feelings. It's tricky, and it does take practice, and it does mean a commitment really to take something that is a reflex and turn it into choice. The big question is, if you're going into a situation, you can, like quite literally ask yourself, do I really need empathy on right now? If I do, why? How will it serve me? And if I don't need it, can I just tap into compassion, sympathy, the ability to listen without creating an energetic resonance? Because, empathy is resonance. You are a resonant, and you're able to connect with other people's energetic fields. It is not necessary for you to do that. That is, you have so many other skills and so many other gifts and so many other talents. You don't have to go with that one for everything. What is the saying? If all you have is a hammer, then all the world has to be a nail. You've got lots of tools in your toolkit. Empathy is simply one of them. It's one that I use a lot, and I still choose when I use it, whether or not I need it, and how long do I need it. So we'll be discussing, the different topics of knowing when you need it and knowing when you don't. When you're in a time of grief, when you're in a time where you are dealing with something that is very intense and can be overwhelming, well, maybe it's not the time to resonate. Maybe it's not the time to utilize that empathic tool. And you may find that things go a lot more smoothly for you, and you don't feel quite so lost and you don't feel quite so overwhelmed if you can just find the stillness, find your eye of the storm, find that place where you are you and just you. So, thank you for joining me. And next week we're going to be going into another topic. But I did want to kind of finish up the idea of grief management. Now, if you have any questions regarding this, please post them in the comments, and I will I will respond. And for those of you who want to connect with me, in the descriptions are the my Twitter page, and on those of you who are on Facebook can join my group Medicine Walk with Dr. Eileen. And I post every morning kind of a thought of the day, something to, hopefully encourage and, maybe help things run a little bit more smoothly. So please, you can follow me on Twitter or go to the Medicine Walk Facebook group, and you'll see those every day. If you would like to support the channel, and I would very much appreciate it if you did, then you can like the video, you can share the video, you can subscribe to the channel. And, we're going to be getting into a whole lot of stuff. So if you hit subscribe and then hit the notification bell, then any of the updates you'll be able to get. And if you would like to support me on a higher level, then you can sign on as a patron. And I do so appreciate and, just love those of you who have signed on and who are supporting me through Patreon for as little as $2 a month. You can be able to support the channel and get new equipment. And I'm looking at investing in better lighting, because since I changed from my office, or the office I was in, to my home, the lighting's not quite right. And for that, I apologize. So I want to be able to, get the lighting much better. And, maybe upgrade my editing software and maybe take some classes in that. Because I really do want this to be something that's very cool. And I think we're at 82 subscribers. So if I can get 18 more subscribers, then I can get a custom URL. And that will mean we've gotten our first 100 subscribers, which would be very exciting. So I appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful week. We'll be back next week. And as always, I wish you balance. And I wish you blessings from my heart to yours. Love you. And take care. Bye, Sam.